Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and in today's video, sponsored by the makers of Call of Dragons, I want to talk about how I'm using Bahorn. This is just one of many ways you could put him into your lineup, and people have been having a lot of success with him, so I wanted to give it a try myself. And there's a bunch of reasons why you might want to try using Bahorn. I'll explain why his skills are certainly powerful. Then I'll talk about how I'm using him with Wyvern Riders, which was a surprise even to me. And then I'm going to share with you why it is that this combo seems to have just absolutely incredible synergy compared to like what I might have expected. It's almost like they were designed to work well together, which, I mean, it would make sense if that was the case. So let's talk first about Bahorn. Why is it that I was interested in using him? His active skill does 1,000 damage factor to the target and to 2 surrounding legions in an arc. So we're talking about 3,000 damage factor, which is disgusting. We're also talking, however, about giving away a total of 90 rage. That's 30 rage per target. Now, that is a lot of damage, but also your enemy is getting a meaningful benefit. Rage really matters. I think the idea, though, is that if you're targeting something and it's getting rage, but it's your focus target, does it matter that it got extra rage? It kind of depends on how strong you are relative to your enemy, but I am very intrigued by this active skill. From here, oh, and it looks insanely cool, by the way. From here, we get Mechanized Army, and I tried to go 5-5-1-1. So I only unlocked the first skill, maxed it, the second skill maxed that, before unlocking the third and the fourth. And this skill ignores 10% of enemy attack, so you're gonna take slightly less damage. Flying legions also gain 10% attack and 20% march speed. So he's so clearly meant to be used with a flying legion. Like so clearly, because ignoring 10% of enemy attack is a very, very weak skill on its own. But all of his skills work in the open field, which is a part of why he's powerful here. Chief Machinist, the third skill, is giving you a defense boost of an upwards of 10%. And depending on what troop type you're using, you get other benefits. Now, if you use infantry, you get counter damage, which is pretty sweet. I will point out that although he might work with infantry, look, there's no flying infantry, so not yet. This does leave the door open, though, which I actually kind of love. Cavalry unit damage bonus dealt of 6%, and a marksman unit normal attack damage boost of an upwards of 20%. Magic unit damage taken reduction of an upwards of 10%. Now, I'm using marksman. As I mentioned, wyverns is what I'm using. So I can get upwards of 20% normal attack boost, and the fourth skill is wacky. When you take damage, you lose rage, which I don't like that. But this skill only gets better, obviously, as you put more points into it, but the downside doesn't get worse. That's why I'm mentioning that. So once you unlock this skill, you'd really love to have it maxed out, because the downside of losing 50 rage, it never gets any worse than that, but the upside only gets better. You deal damage back to the target. For me, it's a damage factor of 100. Sucks to suck. And you gain resistance, damage taken reduction of, for me, it's 4%. The max here is 300 damage factor and the damage taken reduction of 10%, okay? Then the awakening on Bahorn is after casting Exhausting Fumes, the active skill, you get a normal attack crit rate of 30%, which is pretty cool given that you get a normal attack boost over here of 20%. So Bahorn is here to do really big skill damage. And the pair that I came up with that was surprising to me, because I wasn't looking for it, was to pair with Theia. And a part of the reason I'm not pairing with some other marksmen is that I already have them deployed. I'll show you what those 5 are, but that's going to be probably topic for a separate video. But Theia is such an interesting pair with Bahorn. First of all, they both fly, so that's a W. And Theia is going to give flying units 10% attack and 20% march speed. So between the two of them, you actually get 40% march speed for your flying units, which for me meant that with march speed talents on Theia, I was going faster than every other marksman I have. So I actually had to remove every single march speed talent I had, which means that I'm getting more combat stats, by the way, because I was using my wyverns, and instead of having 13 points dedicated to March speed. That's now oriented to combat stuff, which is pretty cool. But the reason that Theia is so interesting with Bahorn is that, first of all, Theia is going to make it so that your hero skill damage is boosted by 15%. Well, Bahorn is doing 3,000 hero skill damage. Like, yeah, that's a W, okay? The second skill is giving you attack, so you're going to hit really hard with that skill damage. You also take less hero skill damage. You gain defense, which is actually kind of nice, but you're also gaining more attack here. And you have stacking attack from getting shields. So Theia's a team player. She's shielding herself and a nearby friendly unit, which is pretty cool. Okay, so Theia turns out to be kind of an interesting pair, and I'm actually using the Visage of the Sanctus. And even at only 2 levels of skill on this thing, I did recently get a 3rd, but with only 2 levels of skill on this thing, I was putting up reports similar to my Sindrian and Freygar, which, like, you may think, okay, Chisgule, why does that matter? Well, my Sin Frey are maxed, so that's relevant. They have 6 stars rather than 5 stars that I have on both of these. And my Sin Frey has a maxed out gold crest rather than a level 2 Visage of the Sanctus, okay? Oh, not to mention that my pet over here is pretty freaking legit. Multiple 3-star skills on this thing, 8 slot, relatively high attribute pet. And I'm getting reports that are similar in nature, okay, using Theia Bahorn with a weak Visage and a 5-5-2-1 Bahorn. Okay, so that probably should get your attention, right? The other thing I'll point out is the pet I was using was also super unimpressive. Now, look, sand lizards are way better than you would think if you have lots of units stacked up on top of each other. But, like, I didn't build this pet for this army. I just had this pet, wanted to see if the Theia Bahorn was going to do anything, and so I used this pet. This is what I was using on it. All right? It's not much. Okay? It's really not much. I wouldn't even call this optimal. Now, yeah, it's maybe like a decent backup pet for a normal attacker, which was kind of what my intention was when I had originally made this. This was my backup pet back in the day when your main pet would run out of stamina before your heroes would. And so I had like this thing as like a tide over. Both of those I made before ultimately gaining access to a Shadow Manticore, which might actually be the pet I use. Or I build the Shadow Manticore, put this on the Magzay, and switch over the Sand Lizard, blah, blah, blah. So what pet do I think would actually be ideal, though, is a fair question. If you want it to fly, you're going to have to use a Goldenrock, but I don't really think Goldenrock is necessarily ideal. I mean, the effect here is just kind of mid. You get a Passion buff. The Passion buff's not terrible, but it's not amazing. It's not damage, which is kind of what I would want. And also gaining rage and healing, like the Intense Exuberance would be a neat pickup. But fundamentally, like this pet that I've built here is, not meant. Okay, this is not meant for, using Marksman, using a Wyvern. I built this specifically for Bakshi Emrys, and it's not even really all that built. It's just a little something better than the nothing I had. So let's talk about the talents really briefly. Chisgule, why Theia primary? Everybody keeps saying use Bahorn primary. But as I looked at Bahorn's talent options, the overall tree is the same as Theia. The PvP tree is the same as Theia. The only reason you're going in on Bahorn primary is for the skill tree, which I love if I'm using 2 skill damage dealers, but I'm not. So increasing my, crit chance for my hero skills and my crit damage, like I love that. I love that for the situation where both heroes in the pair care about critting, but Theia does no damage really at all. She's just there to enhance Bahorn. So that's why I ultimately am using Theia primary. I certainly need to test more. So I'm not saying this is the best, but here's the talents I'm using. And as I mentioned, I got rid of literally every March speed talent. So, and I'm still, I think, faster than all my other marksmen, which is kind of nuts. So I went in the base talents, and I have 1.2 extra defense instead of the 6% March speed over here. You'll notice that you get a hit point boost, okay? And you also mitigate enemy attack, fine. Then I went into the overall tree. So you get health, which is nice. I got attack instead of march speed. I suppose I could have taken defense, but I'm trying to boost my damage. I did boost my hero skill damage over here rather than my normal damage. Or my troop capacity. I'm not convinced the troop capacity is relevant in the late game. 1,500 troops for 5 talent points feels very, very low to me. If this were a percentage-based boost, I think it would be Gangbuster, and I'd be all in on it, but I don't think that cuts it for me, so I did take skill damage here. Then I took, when your Legion is hit with a normal attack, they gain 4 rage. I honestly am debating switching to Guardian Angel. When you enter combat, you gain resistance, reducing the damage they take by 4% for 10 seconds. I actually think I might reset my build and pick this, like literally right now, because that is, in my opinion, worth. And a part of the reason I like that is right over here, Unrelenting Fury. Your Legion gains a buff effect, they gain 15 rage. So this is, I think, way better than people give it credit, because Theia has a lot of ways of giving you buffs. I believe that the shields even count as buffs, but I'd have to look in a log to check. That's a part of the reason why I think Guardian Angel's kind of neat, is because you jumpstart your rage at the start of the fight. I also took strength to strength, a little bit of a damage boost. You could argue that instead of the rage, you could take the damage boost. Because my goal is to make my active skills go more frequently, I'd rather have this rage from buffs effect. And this is an infantry skill, not taking that. This is a marksman skill, but it applies when you're taking damage. I mean, I'm not trying to take a lot of damage here. So I think this is kind of interesting. Reduce the sev wounds in your unit by 10%. It's not terrible. I'd rather get a benefit by dealing damage to an enemy. The march speed over here is not doing much for me. Granted, however, when I get hit with a normal attack, getting this haste buff is going to give me rage. So I'm pretty lukewarm on these talent points. Then when casting rage skills, your Legion gains Keen and Shelter, increasing your attack and their defense. It's not much, okay? It's not much. In fact, does this Keen stack with other Keen effects that I have going on? Let's get a look. Is this a Keen boost? No, it's granting me attack. So I think we're kind of chilling. I have lots of ways to have attack in this army with Bahorn, but it's not Keen, so we're stacking there. I suppose this skill, the damage resistance, won't stack with the other damage resistance. That's how you might make the argument for like, maybe you need this, maybe you don't need this. Anyways, then I went in the PvP tree. I took some attack. I took Rivalry, increasing my normal attack because I didn't need the march speed. Then I took Head Held High, which, look, generating rage is always in style. This is very powerful, especially if you're using a pet that has Chain Strike. Last I checked, Chain Strike can still trigger this. We could go into the logs and prove that, and then Army of Valor, increase your damage dealt. Okay, seems good. Now, I could have considered going into the support tree here. Every time your Legion gains a buff, they gain hit points. When your Legion removes a buff effect, when they cast a rage skill, I wasn't excited about that. I mean, you could compare the PvP tree and the start of the skill tree, right, on Bahorn. Let's get a look. At the start of the skill tree, what else could we have done here? When your commander casts a rage skill, your deputy gains 8% more damage the next time they cast a rage skill. Boiling Blood, I'm actually on board for. This is fully on the plan. That is fully on plan. But wait, if he's the primary, it doesn't work. So no, it's not on plan. Dang. Gaining 20 rage when you cast a skill is cool. Head Held High is always in style. I mean, you know, you boost your skill damage. I mean, this is okay. This is okay. To me, it wasn't good enough to justify not going into this overall tree. And I think the magic is Unrelenting Fury. So let's take the Theia Bahorn for a spin real quick, all right? I want to just show you what this looks like. We'll use the flying unit, the wyverns here, GG. And there's a couple things I actually want to showcase. Let's pick something other than infantry, because we don't need a report that's that long. Well, archers, whatever, sure. So we'll do this, all right? And first of all, the animation on the active skill is like really cool. So we'll show you that real quick. I've got this artifact on auto cast, so that's going to do some extra damage here. And how much damage? Woo! 11,300 is decent. It's just a level 3 on the artifact. But something I noticed that's kind of neat. So we did 2,700 damage there. Okay. Let's check one more skill cycle real quick. What do we got? 2,700. If I bring out another army for the shield to land on, which hasn't happened yet. Okay, 2,700. Let's see what happens when I do this. Ready? I think the purple number should go up. 5,400. Pretty decent, honestly. Pretty decent. This is a darkling though. Like, right? Like the actual numbers are not that important. That animation's wicked though. Probably one of the coolest they've put in the game for sure. Okay. So, with that done, we go and we get a look at the log here, okay? And I've been testing a bunch of stuff, but there's a couple things I want to show you. First, I want to show you that Unrelenting Fury can only trigger once per turn, which is actually kind of a bummer. I wasn't expecting that. I would like to see that listed in the skill description. But as far as I can tell, it only triggers once per turn. Now, upside is that it does trigger from Army of Valor talent, and every time that ticks up, which is awesome. So every 10 seconds, you'll get a trigger there, but that's 15 rage. Just You Wait from Bahorn triggered, giving me a resistance effect. That triggered Unrelenting Fury, which is pretty nice. Okay, then on turn 3, as I slightly misclick there, we're going to have Chain Strike trigger. Chain Strike, I can check, still triggers head held high, which is pretty cool. It took me a gazillion turns to make that happen in another report, but whatever. We scroll on down. Chain Strike. Now, this is an interesting one, okay? I didn't expect this synergy. Wildfire is the passive from the Wyvern Riders. When launching a normal, 30% chance to increase hit points by 2% and normal attack by 6% for 3 seconds. Only takes effect when a legion is composed entirely of Wyvern Riders. So that also is giving me Unrelenting Fury. Kind of neat. So a 30% chance every turn to get 15 rage. Effectively, right? Then over here, there's Wildfire again and Unrelenting Fury. Chain Strike over here is what triggered the Wildfire, right? So there's extra ways to trigger that from Chain Strike. So it's more than a 30% chance, really, that all is going to go down, which is really cool. The artifact shielding went off, so that's neat. Then we have the active skill over here, Chain Strike and Intense Chain Strike. Where's my head held high? I mean, I guess it's only a 10% chance to trigger. Okay. Oh my gosh, so many things happening. Thunder Fury was triggered because an active skill was used. I suppose that because we have so many things going on, it is unlikely that this Thunder Fury talent is going to trigger the extra rage buff. That is actually an interesting insight. Every time I look at logs, man, I learn something new. So interesting. Visage of the Sanctus, shockingly doing better than I was expecting here. And there is the Chain Strike triggering head held high. And Army of Valor, as I mentioned, triggering Unrelenting Fury. Huge. So all of it comes together in sort of the way that I mentioned. And you can see from prior turns, Wildfire triggered Unrelenting Fury. It didn't here because it can only trigger once per turn. So the game is, I guess, deciding which of these things triggered it. At least it's only showing up once in the log. Kind of a bummer, but okay. So, oh yeah. Wait, Theia gained 30 rage. Wait, hold up. Theia gained 30 rage? Each legion hit gains 30 rage. Wait, now I am confused. This is not doing that. Each legion hit gains 30 rage. I gain 30 rage. Wait, really? Wait, how does this work? Well, if it works like the log says, this is amazing. If it works the way the skill description says, it benefits the enemy. But Bahorn is actually cracked if this is doing what it says in the logs. Chat, this is why we look at logs. I'm sure some number of people got to the log portion of the video and they were like, oh, logging? Let me log out of this video. But if you stuck around, you got the fat W. Now, obviously, the downside of Bahorn is like 1,000 damage to a single target sucks. So we're like, if Bahorn's not hitting multiple things, he is underperforming for sure. Dude, that's insane. Wait. Now I'm really curious. So we can return this, but we can also look at the talents here. And would I change the talents based on how that's going? Let's get a look again. My other option here is this. When your Legion's unit count is less than 50%, they deal 2% more damage. I mean, I'm not excited. I don't know which of these I'd prefer. Cornered Rat? Bro, what a name. What a name. I feel like no matter what, I probably want Unrelenting Fury, but I don't feel like it's as busted as I originally envisioned it being, because it can only trigger once per second. I would love if it said that. Up top over here, I could get some counterattack. I could increase my all damage, which is decent. I can make it so I deal more damage when I get low. I mean, fundamentally, I'm like not convinced that the PvP tree is meaningfully better. Okay. Inflicting a defense break is definitely nice given the configuration that I have. But, you know, with all these marksmen, which I'll talk about in a second, but also I have plenty of other stronger defense breaks that are going to be applied. I in some ways don't need more defense breaks, actually. So talent-wise, there is a little bit that's lacking in this combo. I mean, the hasty retreat is, in my opinion, kind of suboptimal. You have to take it. I'm unexcited by the options here in the overall tree, but I think it's fine. Net, it feels solid to me. But you could do better. You could do better. If you're wondering, okay, Chisgule, you did promise to tease what you're using with all your marksmen. I can show that to you even though my armies are out by going over here. We'll go to a behemoth trial real quick. And you'll see very briefly like, oh, okay, I get it. This is why he is using this as like, if he wants to run 5 marksmen. So there it is. I've got Sinfrey, obviously, my Fulgrim with Sybil, my Magzay, Nico Canora, and then Theia with Fulgrim. This is, of course, topic probably for a separate video, so I think I'll leave this one here. If you enjoyed it, throw a like on here, subscribe. I'm having an insane season. We are fighting 2v4, which is actual insanity. I think we've done very, very, very well, all things considered, but I don't want to like reveal a bunch of markers and blah, 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 which is why I'm not looking around the map. Yeah, I'm having a good season. What am I up to? Like 12 mil merits, 12 and a half. More important though is like, dude, I garrison the heck out of stuff. I rally stuff. My Moon Bear became like the funnel for our kingdom's wrath or the recipient of all the damage. So anyways, GG's. Until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.